One of the most undervalued blockchain projects in the entire crypto industry has got to be Ergo. Now, Ergo is something of interest. A lot of people have been asking me about it, and I want to cover three big things that Ergo has going on before we jump into the price charts so I can tell you when Ergo is going to be a very, very good blockchain to buy. I think potentially we could see it get up to maybe $20 in 2025, depending on kind of what time frame this market kind of peaks out as. But I want to show you why $20 for me is in the cards. Today, it's sitting at around 81 cents, and so that would be a 20x return on this small little blockchain, and it doesn't even include any Ergo altcoins or Ergo ecosystem tokens. So if that interests you, stick around. Let's talk about it. The first couple things I think that are really interesting about Ergo, and that I think, the reason I want to tell you about some stuff before we just jump right into the charts, I don't think it's necessary all the time, but I think fundamentals they're just massive in understanding what kind of asset you're investing in. It helps you understand how you should approach a trade, how you should approach an investment for a long-term investment or a short-term investment or whatever. And so I do this with Cardano, I do this with Bitcoin. Even if I were to buy Solana, I know the fundamentals of what that blockchain has. And something like Solana, I would see as like a riskier thing that I just got to know. I got to get out when the price is saying get out, right? Cardano and Bitcoin, I kind of like the fundamentals a little bit more. I like the Ethereum fundamentals a little bit more. I like the Ergo fundamentals a little bit more. And so, even if the trade's not 100% perfect, I still like the underlying asset. That helps me make a better investment decision. So when you know things about like the tokenomics and how that's being released, or like what the expectations of the project are, or what the timeline is, it helps you make a better trade, and it helps you have price in a better context. So I think it's very important. That's why I want to talk about it real quick before we just get into the price chart and Ergo against the dollar and Ergo against the Bitcoin. So there's three things I want to talk about with Ergo. The first is storage rent. The second is basically just how it is a very decentralized ASIC resistant proof of work blockchain that is really like the next iteration of Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin with more programmable smart contracts because of the way that it has Sigma protocols, which are essentially zero knowledge proofs, which are essentially layer 2 stuff. Like all those layer 2s Ethereum has, those are ZK rollup technologies. Ergo has this built into the smart contracts. And so what makes Ergo really special? Well, from a decentralization standpoint, is it has ASIC resistance, which allows a lot of people to join into the mining party because GPUs and CPUs are just so much more accessible, right? And there's a lot of debate on long-term versus short-term how ASIC resistant really is, if it will lead to more decentralization or if it will lead to more centralization, or if eventually there will be ASICs that can crack the code. But for right now, it helps Ergo be more decentralized because, a lot of people have access to GPUs to help mine in the Ergo ecosystem. Mining might not be super profitable right now. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really follow the mining for Erg. But Ergo is this very, very healthy public blockchain that is kind of fighting some of the things that other proof of work blockchains do. And so it's taking a lot of information from Bitcoin on how to be a fair decentralized ecosystem. It gave like 95% of all tokens out to the public, and it's currently almost 100% circulating supply. Let me show you here, because this is going to actually be really important when we look at this. Some of the main reasons I really like Ergo is, you can look here, the total supply currently is 80 million ERG out of a max supply of 97 million ERG. So when we look at this price chart today, all the data that we're getting is actually really close to, it's really the market equal price. And so the market is deciding the price. This is something you don't see with blockchains that are not decentralized. Blockchains that are not decentralized as far as their tokenomics go, they're deciding the price because they're releasing tokens, or somebody's in control of the tokens, or some VC has tokens they're dumping. And so I really like that Ergo has this decentralized token structure and the decentralized blockchain where anyone can access, anyone can use a GPU to mine, and the tokenomics are very retail friendly. On top of all that, another thing that makes Ergo just very, very interesting is two parts of technology. One is Sigma protocols, which is the zero knowledge proofs that basically make this blockchain streamlined and fast and capable for fundamental and very, very technical things that you would want to do with smart contracts. So Bitcoin is a little bit heavy on the smart contracts if we're comparing Ergo to Bitcoin, right? Because they're brothers. Ergo is made after Bitcoin from Bitcoin with the same kind of ideas of proof of work, of UTXO, of mining, right? Of decentralization, fair economic system for money. And so it's very interesting how these are paralleling to each other. But the two things Ergo has going for it is Sigma protocols, which is its smart contract, zero knowledge proofs that really allow you to do complex smart contracts and do a lot of interesting things with programmable money, or different DeFi applications around like credits and loans and stuff of all this very complex financial stuff that Bitcoin might not necessarily be able to do. The second thing is it has storage rent or demurrage, which basically helps miners long term pay for this blockchain and pay for energy and pay for the production of blocks. It's very important, especially on a smaller blockchain like Ergo, that is still getting built up in its ecosystem. There's been a long-term debate in a lot of blockchains, Bitcoin, Cardano, and Ergo, about what happens when the treasury fund runs out and when when the last Bitcoin block is mined, are transaction fees going to be enough to pay for miners to keep going? When the last Cardano stake is released from the treasury, are transaction fees on the blockchain going to be healthy enough to pay for the node operators to continue operating the blockchain? The same thing goes for Ergo. After the last Erg is mined, will there be enough transaction fees? Will there be enough resources for miners to continue? And storage rent is actually helping keep that alive. Bitcoin doesn't have storage rent. Cardano doesn't have storage rent. It's very unique to Ergo. And we actually see Ergo do a lot of interesting technology that then other blockchains start to bring onto their chain. So Ergo had Babel fees. Ergo had, algorithmic stablecoins, and it has storage rent, which we could see in some other blockchains as we've seen those other aspects go into other blockchains. So storage rent basically means that if you have not made a transaction, let's say you hold 1,000 Erg in a wallet, right? 1,000 Erg in a wallet, and when you do transactions, you open UTXO boxes. Well, when you do another transaction, you pay to close your old box and you open a new box on the blockchain. As this happens, if you have a bunch of boxes open because you've done a transaction here, you've done a transaction here, you've done a transaction with this NFT and a transaction with this meme coin and all this stuff, you have too many boxes open. It makes the blockchain heavy. And so it's your fault for making the blockchain heavy. Well, like in Web 2 world, if you have all these things and you're storing all this data, Google or Amazon Web Services makes you pay for more data. Ergo is kind of doing the same thing, but in a little bit more fair way. And so when you have all these boxes open from all these transactions, once every 4 years, if you have not done a transaction, to close those boxes and open a new one and help pay for miners to continue the blockchain via your transaction fee, then they're going to take 0.14 ERG from you, a very small amount of ERG, as a fee for keeping your boxes open. Now that will be, if you have 100 boxes open, it'll be for every single one. But most people do not. Most people have like one or two for doing a transaction. And as they do transactions, their boxes get closed. And you only have to do that once every 4 years. So I think storage rent is something that helps keep the blockchain running because you as a user have so much open data. And so it's your job to close that data, close your storage rent boxes, which is very easy in most of the wallets. They help you do it automatically. But storage rent is one great, amazing piece of technology that keeps the blockchain running, keeps the miners mining, and therefore keeps the transactions flowing. That is Ergo in a nutshell. It is like Bitcoin's younger brother that is just trying to figure things out. Very small ecosystem, but a lot of great technology that many people, including Charles Hoskinson, have really come to honor and have come to understand. And it makes Ergo, for me, a very big standout. I do hold Ergo. I also hold one lending protocol on Ergo, Quax, the DeFi lending protocol. And so I think that as this bull market turns around, Bitcoin goes up again, Cardano goes up again, eventually investors are going to want to come find some risk. And so they're going to do that by finding smaller layer one projects that have very unique technology that larger blockchains do not. Like, it's very hard for Ethereum or Cardano to adapt to these blockchains and try and do something new. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity here. All you have to do is get the timing on the chart right. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that right now. Okay, so what you're going to see here is Ergo versus the dollar. Okay, Erg versus the dollar. And Erg versus the dollar. And so when we're looking at this chart, the way that I analyze crypto charts is called stage analysis. You can go look it up. It's I don't know if it's popular or not, but it's what I use to analyze these charts. And it's the simplest, easiest way you can trade crypto. Okay, all it requires is that you have a 30-week and a 40-week moving average. So the yellow line is our 30-week moving average, and we're looking at the weekly chart. The blue line is our 40-week moving average, and we're looking at the weekly chart. Okay, and you can see what is happening here. Back here, this top was a stage 3 top. Okay, stage 3 top. As price of ERG crossed below these moving averages, it moved into a stage 4 decline. Okay, and it kind of went stage 4 all the way down here until it kind of broke out here. This is the beginning of stage 1. You can see I kind of have this box here. This is kind of where I think the high and low of stage 1 could be for this new cycle for ERG to go to $20. That's what I think it can go to as a realistic price target. What we're seeing here I'm just trying to explain all the things I have on this chart, all right? What we have here is this stage 1 box. So stage 1 is an accumulation zone where investors are accumulating. Stage 1 leads to a stage 1 breakout, which leads to a stage 2 uptrend. After stage 2, you get a stage 3 distribution top, which leads again to a stage 4. This is the cycle Ergo will go through, okay? All cryptos are going to go through this thing. Bitcoin, Ethereum, the S&P 500, it all goes through this cycle. So if you just figure this out, you can trade Ergo very, very profitably. All right, so the only thing that we're looking at here in order to make a good trade on ERG is we just want price to roll into this. And I'm going to remove this blue box to make it just a little bit easier to see here. And you can see here, just these moving averages are starting to go horizontal. That is what we want to see. It's you can't really see it back here because Ergo was so young, but you can see up here in the stage 3, when the moving averages go horizontal, that is typically where a change in trend is occurring. That is what we want to see. We want a change in trend because we want ERG to stop falling and we want it to start rising so we can make money, right? And so this horizontal moving average is very good. And we like that the 30 and the 40 week keep twisting between each other. This is a classic stage 1 bottoming zone for an asset, right? Whether it's stocks, whether it's crypto, whether it's ADA or ERG, this is what's happening. And so what I'm looking at here is this a double bottom on the Ergo price chart? If it's a double bottom, then what happens if ERG breaks above this moving average, okay? The big thing that we want to see is we want to see ERG do 2 things. The first thing is that it needs to get above this 30-week moving average to be bullish in the stage analysis trend again. Then we want to see, well, we need 3 things actually. The second thing we want to see is we want to see volume decrease as we move through the stage 1. So you can see how volume kind of spiked here as it got above. That's good. You want to have high volume on a break above the moving average. But you see how over the cycle, volume has slowly decreased and started picking up on these uptrends. But what we want to see now is we want to see volume continue to decrease here. To decrease and to get squeezed, meaning that less ERG is on the open market being sold. And so therefore, when a buy happens, it can punch price higher much more rapidly. Okay, and we're seeing that here. We're seeing volume slowly decrease, and we want it to completely dry up down here. The last thing that we want to see is, I think this looks like a stage 1 trend line. And so a stage 1 trend line will be a key part of resistance that we want to break out. And you can even see it looks like ERG tried to break out of this stage 1 trend line right here, but it got stuck and then it failed back in like, when all of the other cryptos were failing to get higher. ERG did the same thing. So this is actually a very bullish time in crypto and in the Ergo blockchain history, but it broke down below. And so what we could see here is we could see ERG get above this moving average at the same time it breaks above this diagonal trend line, leading us to a bullish zone. I think the top of the stage 1 is between these 2 yellow lines somewhere. I'm not 100% perfect at picking the range of where the stage 1 starts and stops, but it's somewhere in this area. And I take that because this is a previous high over here, and then we have this low and this low and this high all kind of lining us up here. And so either spot could be a great spot for the stage 1 breakout to occur, but I think that it could be somewhere right in this area because we have this moving average coming up like this. We have this trend line coming like this, and then we have these horizontals right here. So I think this area, somewhere in here, could be a great spot to target an ERG breakout against the dollar if price keeps going up as it has been. Why is this not leaving me alone? If price keeps going up as it has been. Okay, so this is a double bottom on ERG. What I'm watching and what I think you should be watching is if price comes up, tests the moving average, and then breaks out above all of this garbage right here on high volume. This is a signal of high volume much higher than all this other volume. This would be a very good sign, and I think at that point, Ergo starts to get very bullish. Now, I don't just want to leave you with that. I want to give you a little bit more information here. So I want to tell you the Ergo Bitcoin valuation and how that's going to help, how that helps me figure out maybe where ERG can get on a price time frame. Okay, so when we're looking at this Ergo Bitcoin chart, I think it's very helpful at us understanding what the possibilities could be for this cycle. Now, you can see since 2021 here, again, we have the same moving averages here. What you want to see here for ERG to get bullish against Bitcoin is to double bottom, start making its way back up to the moving average and get above the moving average like it did here, but actually hold that move and continue higher. That would be a very good sign for Ergo against Bitcoin. And this is stage analysis. Again, same thing. Stage 4 decline, we're moving into a stage 1. I don't know how long it takes, but all I want to see is ERG get back above the moving averages and hold it durably, maybe retest the moving averages before heading higher. That would look something like this. These moving averages come over here, price comes like this, boom, 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 something like that, right? Maybe it doesn't even have to do the retest. Maybe it just goes like this, boom. Okay, something like that, right? I think that could be a very, very possible scenario. And so what I think we should be looking at here is this area. And so what I did was I took this Fibonacci retracement, brought it down here to the lows, and I think that the 618 is going to be a great spot to target. I'm not sure if price is going to get all the way back up there again, but I think it could be a great spot to target. You see we have this 618 here right around where this high was. And you can see that's a spot where ERG liked to test against Bitcoin. And so if we truly do go back into this ultimate altcoin season, which I definitely think we do, because I think Bitcoin dominance is topping out. I think that something's going to happen in the market to lead crypto to follow M2. And so if that happens and we can kind of put a price prediction out here that maybe ERG gets back up here to the 618 at the very least, then we can kind of figure out backwards what the price of Bitcoin and ERG would correlate to at that period of time. And so what we can do is take this part and we can go, let me get my calculator here, and we can take $100,000, which is our current Bitcoin price, or which would be the Bitcoin price if it continues higher again, right? It could probably even be 150,000. So at $100,000, if ERG came back up here to this level of 0.00026, we can take $100,000 times it by 0.00026, and we get a price of $26. Okay, this changes if you do 150,000 for the price of Bitcoin. You know, if the bull market really continues and Bitcoin goes much higher to 150,000, and we multiply that by 0.00026, we get an Ergo price of $39. And so all Ergo has to do is just get back up here to this Satoshi valuation as it did last cycle, and you would get a price of ERG somewhere between $20 and $30. Maybe that doesn't happen. You know, maybe it comes down here and it only gets, you know, this high, something like this, right? This could still be, you know, $10 or $15 for the price of ERG, which, you know, any 10x you can get is still a very good price appreciation. And so I think that what we should be looking at here is just this simple move of, is this the bottom for Ergo? Is ERG price going to get back above the moving average and then hold it? And from there, if we see a lot of volume breaking out above that, we could start to see a very good situation where you might want to start accumulating ERG, even if you haven't started, you know, today. There's a price right here where this moving average is going to curl up as price comes back. If Ergo gets above it on high volume, breaks out of this level, you can have a very good spot to buy ERG. As of right now, it's very confusing in the market, right? We don't know what's going on. We have so much uncertainty. It's not a wise price to just be buying it randomly. Although I do think we're in a stage one, and I highly doubt it goes down further. The market could get a very nasty piece of news, like more tariffs or more pain or something, and price could just keep falling forever in a stage 4 downtrend again. So I would be patient watching this, and then let's see what happens as the stage 1 continues into stage 2. That would be a perfect time to enter for a trade, and you'd probably make like a 10 or a 20x. So that's what I think is going on with Ergo. Probably one of the most undervalued proof of work UTXO ASIC resistant blockchains that has a lot of interesting technology going on. I've been watching it. I've been an Ergo holder for quite a while, since about 2023 or 2020, probably 2023, I think. And so, yeah, I like it. I wish I would have known a little bit better time to entry back then, but you know, this bear market's been a blessing for me because I've just been learning so much more about how to invest better, what to look at, what to do, and trying to pass that knowledge on to you. All right. Drop a comment down below if you like the video. If you're one of the 20% of people that are still watching, I really appreciate you. And I would appreciate a like on the video. That would help us very much. Drop a comment down below if you got any questions. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the video. See us next time for some more Ergo, Cardano, Bitcoin, and crypto content.